G'day, legends. It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here. Before we get stuck into another great interview brought to you by Crannk.com and thatmetalstation.com, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and that way you can keep up to date with all the best music and interviews from all over the world. Hey, how you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy with Crannk.com and with thatmetalstation.com. Today I'm chatting with James and Aaliyah of Shield of Wings, whose amazing symphonic metal epic masterpiece Unfinished came out 11th of Feb through Elder Path Records, and I am digging the absolute bloody hell out of it, guys. So cheers for making some time with me to have a chat about it all.
Cheers to you.
First off, James, I want to jump in, ask you a couple of questions, mate. Can you tell me a little bit about, because it's been 11 years since the EP album, can you tell me first a little bit about the early days of Shield of Wings and the beginnings of the band?
Sure. The band started in 2005 when I was in high school, and I met up with Patrick, who is the current drummer of the band. He's the only other founding member who's currently still in the band. And another buddy of mine who played keyboards, and the three of us started the band together. And for the first era, we did a lot of, our focus was mainly like performance. You know, we weren't really thinking much about recording in the beginning stages. So we were pretty much working on getting shows and just, you know, having that live fun experience until maybe around 2010 we started thinking about actually maybe we should make a concrete record or something, you know, put down some tracks, and we ended up making the 2011 EP Solarium. And in 2012, we parted ways with our vocalist at the time, and the band went on a hiatus because everybody had a lot going on in their lives. So I guess that's the first era in a nutshell.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about the second coming of, as you say, Shield of Wings, you know, the restarting of the band, you know, because it was something you started back in high school. I suppose when that happened, you probably would have been like, well, do I keep this band going? Do I just call it a day and do something else musically, and then, you know, maybe relook at it in a few years? What was that time like for you?
Well, like I said, everybody had a lot going on in their lives. And our drummer was getting his master's degree. Our bass player was continuing his education. And I was kind of, you know, dipping my toes into adulthood. I was trying to buy a home. So, which I did. And I ended up like remodeling the entire house. So that was a huge project. But during that time when the band was on the hiatus, I didn't stop writing music. So I wrote a lot of music in that big gap by myself. And in 2017, I started talking to the band members, and I was like, hey, I wrote all this music, something like 40 partial songs, you know. And I was like, hey, I think we should maybe listen to these songs, and if you like what you hear, let's pick some of them and we'll put together an album. So we were talking in 2017, and then towards like 2019, like 2 years later, we actually ended up doing it. So we picked 10 songs out of those 40, and yeah, that's Unfinished.
Yeah, so Aaliyah, how did you get on board? Tell me a little bit to bring you into the conversation. How did you get on board with Shield of Wings?
Sure. Well, it's kind of a funny story because I actually discovered Shield of Wings when I was still in college, going to college in Indiana, and Shield of Wings is based out of Illinois. I was trying to set up shows with my college era band, and I had actually emailed James to try and set up a show with Shield of Wings back in 2007, 2008.
It was about 2009,
maybe 2009. Yeah, it's all a blur. It's so long ago. But anyway, yeah, I had communicated with them. It never worked out to play a show. And then I moved to Los Angeles then, you know, for a few years. And I just met James online due to similar music interests. And we started talking, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember your band. It was like, so I remember really liking it, and I wanted to set up a show with you guys, and it just never happened. So yeah, we got to talking about music and such, and then I ended up moving back to the Midwest. And yeah, we just kept talking and hanging out. So when the band got back together, they invited me to hop on board, and I was more than happy to.
And
Yeah,
what's
at
that?
the time,
You
at
go,
the time we
James.
didn't have a vocalist in mind. So when Aaliyah joined up with us, I kind of asked her to help me start demoing these vocals, because the songs were written and I had the lyrics and I had the melodies, but I just didn't have an actual person who could sing, because I can't sing. So she kind of helped out before Lara joined the band as lead vocals.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about Lara and how she became on board as well.
Well, it was a little late in the process. In late 2019, she found us online, actually. We had like an old account on, I think it was like Bandmix or something.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. Bandmix, which is like a musician's hub where they can contact each other. And she found like our old account on there that said we were looking for a vocalist that we hadn't updated in like a long time, years. And we just got a random email, and she sent us like her EP that she did from her solo project. And it was
Her solo project is Mordian, her EP, Romance in Disguise. Really, really a beautiful example of her vocals.
Yeah. So we kind of fell for it and met up with her in person, and it ended up working out quite nicely, I'd say.
Yeah, so that in mind, how did you compose these tracks? And tell me a little bit about the songwriting process. You've got these two amazing vocalists in Lara and Aaliyah. You know, you've got the you're doing the harsh vocals and the keys as well, and you've got Lara just with her amazing vocals in there as well. And it just, for me, it's an amazing release. It's like, you know, that Solarium EP was great, but it must be good for you to look at this unfinished album. It's like night and day. This album is, and just feels like you've kind of, you know, hit your groove as a band, and it must be exciting for you, James, going forward with this all.
Certainly. I'm definitely blessed to have talented people in my band to pull all the weight. I just write the songs.
You just write the songs, right?
What's it like when you're making the music? Tell me a little bit about making this album and the whole the songwriting and the recording process as well.
Sure. Well, like I said, the music for this album was mostly written in solitude, unlike the 2011 EP, which I was still leading the charge on, but the other band members had more input in it in the initial stages. So there was a little bit more collaboration. But on this stuff, it was mostly written in solitude over many years. So that variety, there's the variety in the sound spectrum kind of like as a result of the songs being written over such a long span of time. Yeah,
I would say there was, like he said, there wasn't so much collaboration on this album. It was mostly written by him, but we all could, if we wanted to have any say, we were definitely able to have that say.
Yeah.
You know, Pat put his own twist on the drums, and so
in 2019, when we started really working together, polishing everything, and we started re-recording the album in 2020, you know, things were kind of changed or a little bit, but I mean, there were no major changes to the songs, really. You know, like I would, yeah.
There would have been some huge changes. Like you probably noticed, like I want to touch on the PR side of things, because Aaliyah, you wear a couple of hats as well. You got a podcast, and you got, you know, you're doing the PR stuff as well with C Squared, and you're just all over the place too. Through 2011, when you first brought out that EP, you would have totally been both totally different people now, different lives, and then now coming through to 2022 and the last couple of years and the way we approach music, we're becoming more being able to work at distance, but also to be able to reach a wider audience as well through your music. It's kind of a little bit how you market yourself and how you are able to cut through a lot of this bloody white noise out there and actually reach people and get onto the right places for your music to actually, you know, touch people.
Yeah, it's a much different game now than it was, I'd say, 10 years ago, 11 years ago when we came out with Solarium. And honestly, we at the time we didn't market it very well because I didn't really know much about that, and we kind of just put it out there, and it latched on with some people, which was nice. But we really didn't run a campaign or anything. It was just kind of natural spread. But having Aaliyah in the band is a good asset because she's been able to help out with that whole side of things, promotion and marketing, which isn't my forte.
Yeah, I mean, in the whole time leading up to the album, when he was working on writing the songs, I just was working on learning as much as I could about marketing and PR.
What was it like as you've a vocalist coming in? Because those clean and those heavy vocals are just unreal. That would have been fun for you to be able to work with Lara on that side of things.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, it was very cool to hear her bring her voice to the songs. And I mean, obviously her tone it's got a nice richness and depth to it that, yeah, I mean, we really let her have her way as much as possible when it came to performing the cleans and the leads on vocals on the tracks. And the harsh vocals, yeah, I mean, that's been a newer exploration for me. I've been singing forever, but harsh vocals only really in earnest been working on them for like 3 years. I mean, I've been playing around with them for maybe 5 years, but actually in earnest, probably only like 2 years. So like actually practicing them and refining my technique and such. So yeah, it was really fun to be able to actually have those come into play on the album.
Yeah, and that first album, first track, pardon me, on the album, Crushing Hail, is a ripper. If you don't listen to that first track and go, man, I've got to hear more of this album, I really don't know what's wrong with you. Can you tell me a little bit about that track there, the opening one?
Well, we picked it for that reason, hoping it would have somewhat of an effect like that on the listener, get their attention, maybe amp them up a little bit, engage them. And if I remember correctly, that song was debated whether or not it was actually going to be on the album, in the very early stages. So,
I'd have to refer to my notes. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was a long time. Well, yeah.
It
That was a
must-
long time ago.
It must be good though, James. It must have been a really cathartic process because you said you'd worked on these tracks for, over the last 11 years up until when you made this album. It must have been good for you to finally get these tracks out and maybe really start working on the next chapter of Shield of Wings, being that you'd written these songs over the 11 years and now you've got this lineup, a solid lineup going forward. It must be really exciting for you going forward as well to get this one out and then look to the future of the band.
Sure. I would agree with that fully. It was nice to kind of set them in stone and just let them be.
Yep.
These tracks, you mean?
Yeah, these tracks, and have that expression out there. Yeah.
But yeah, and now moving forward, it's going to be really exciting to work with the talent that we have and like put out a more collaborative effort.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah, and having everybody's abilities in mind, our new bass player Alex and Lara, knowing her range and her vocal style, and also Aaliyah and what she's capable of, those things can all be considered when moving forward with the next songs.
Yeah, and then looking forward, how is the live music scene going over in your area? And are you guys going to be playing live? Have you got any shows coming up, or is this something you're looking at going forward with the band?
Well, it's just starting to pick up right now.
Yeah, so we are looking forward to doing that, but we don't have any dates set up right now.
Yeah, it's
Hopefully, maybe the end of the summer. We'll see.
it's been a crazy time. It's been hard for bands to kind of, set shows and dates around it. And it makes it more important for people to get along. And as I always play, get along and buy albums. If you can't get to these shows or shows aren't happening in your area, it just makes it even more of a good excuse to go out and buy the album and support the band with merch, because you've got some killer merch out there. The albums look amazing as well. It's got some killer artwork on there. You've got a favorite track off the album? I know it's like picking a favorite child, and I hate asking this every time, but have you got a favorite track or a one that you think stands out, and why?
Yeah, that's a fair question, but I was going to ask you actually before that. How are things in Australia with live performance? Are they happening?
Yeah, they are happening. I went to Churches of Steel last weekend. We're just able to stand up. They've dropped a couple of the mask restrictions. You're able to stand up. You couldn't dance at the show, so people started to mosh, and then they're like, "Oh, stop moshing." But the crowd was really getting into it. It was good. At first, for the first half of the day, people were standing around not sure how to do it. And I've been to a few shows since they've started up again, and it's been really good to get along and support these shows. I'm happy to wear a mask or do whatever as long as I can go see some heavy metal music. The last couple of years has been a crazy, crazy time. But the crowds, you see them a little bit unsure about what they're doing when they go to these shows as well. And then some people I'm finding a little bit hesitant to actually get out. They're so used to sitting at home now for the last couple of years, and trying to get the crowds back out again is tough. For me, I'm enjoying where it's going to go. But then you look at like how sports was treated with it all. It was crazy through this whole pandemic. Like I figured if we'd rebranded half of these music bands as sporting teams, we would have been fine.
Well, it's good to hear you're getting out there now.
Yeah,
rocking.
It is. Tell us a little bit about the artwork. Who done the artwork for the album?
The artwork.
Oh,
is
wait. Favorite song. That's what your last
song.
question.
That's where we were going.
Favorite song.
Okay.
You go first.
Well, I have
your favorite song.
The Scarred Clay Reshaping is my favorite song.
Yeah.
The last track on the album. I love all of the different parts of the song and the orchestrations, the fact that I get to use my harsh vocals in that song and the way that I get to use them. Just everything about that track. I feel it's like a journey, and I love that track.
Well, for the sake of not picking the same answer, because it's one of my favorites, I'd say either Mind of Myth or Sunfire Shower. So yeah, I get really excited more so about like the ending of the album, not because it's the end, but just my favorites kind of cluster towards the end of the album.
Yeah, it's a great album. And like for me, listening to whole albums is an absolute joy. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the themes that kind of may have influenced you when it come to kind of this album? Did you have any you were working off, or?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, there was a lot of life lived in that kind of hiatus, and a lot of life experience that kind of shaped these songs. So depends on the song. The themes vary.
Well, but I mean, there is like kind of a one consistent theme throughout, like a more overarching theme of self-analysis and introspection and self-improvement.
Yeah. Sacrificial death, rebirth. Looking inward.
Yeah, it's a perfect point, and one I want to leave that at. That's why I did want to ask about the theme and the overarching theme on the album, because it is one that we all need to take a message out of, about self-improvement, pushing through. We're all going to have highs and lows, and the album is really well done. Looking forward to what comes next for Shield of Wings. Aaliyah and James, thank you very, very much for joining myself, Crannk, and that metal station for a chat about it all. Do you have any last words, shout outs, or thank yous you'd like to add in?
Thank you for the interview. We appreciate talking to you.
I do want to shout out the album artwork artist, though. It was Maximos Manolis from Greece. He's an oil painter and he's quite excellent. Definitely check out his other work. And thank you so much for having us. This was a great chat.
Thank you
Pick
very
up the
much.
album, guys.
Yeah, everyone go out, grab Unfinished. Shield of Wings came out 11th of Feb through Elder Path Records. I can't recommend this album enough. I've been cranking the hell out of it the last week. So thank you very much for joining me, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see it.